Let's go to Leviticus. Who is the neighbor we are to love as we love ourselves? Go. Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 17. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people. Do you know who the children of your people is, black man, black woman? It says, against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. That's what Christ was quoting. So your neighbor is the children of your people. Your neighbor is the children of your people. That's nationalism. Love your people above all others. You ain't figured that out yet. Churches have been lying to you.
If you ask me, the black Hebrew Israelites have been lying to you guys, because what did Jesus teach? What does the Bible say? It doesn't matter what Nathaniel says. It doesn't matter what I say. It all matters what the Bible says, because that's where we're supposedly getting our information from, correct? Correct. Now this is what it says, Matthew 5:43-45. Nathaniel said, love your own people, love your own nation. Okay, let's see what the Bible says. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbors and hate your enemies. That's what they were told. Watch this. But I tell you, Jesus, love your enemies and pray for them who persecute you, that you may be sons and daughters of your Father in heaven. So he said, so that you may be. So there is a condition. This is something that needs to be met. This is a requirement that needs to be met. Love your neighbors and also love your enemies. Luke 6:27-28. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who spitefully use you. Now, some black Hebrew Israelites don't take Jesus Christ to be the Son of God. I just found that out because I'm about to do a video upon a Sicarian who says that Jesus is not the Son of God. But us Christians, we hold him in high regard to that such. By the way, those who don't take Jesus as the Son of God, they were called Arians back then because it was the Arian heresy. Look up the Arian heresy. By the way, Origen, he was a so-called church father. He was black, by the way. He was African. And he was Arian because he didn't believe in the divinity of Jesus Christ. He believed that all people could become gods, which is pantheism, which is essentially occultism, by the way. But the point I'm getting there at, people, is if Jesus is telling us to love those who hate us and want to curse us and do wrong to us, and he did the same thing as well, who are we to say that we can't do the same thing if he's supposed to be the example, the best, the greatest example? Moses couldn't fulfill what Jesus did. Enoch couldn't fulfill what Jesus did. Elijah, Elisha, Jeremiah, none of those people from past time and even in our present time or who will ever be on this planet will be able to do what Jesus did and set the perfect example that Jesus did. No one will be able to mimic it. Luke 6:35-38. Love your enemies and do good to them. Lend to them without expecting to be repaid. Then your reward from heaven will be very great, and you will be truly acting as children of the Most High. So how you act as children of the Most High is by loving your enemies and doing good to them, and lend to them without expecting to be repaid. I mean, that's just in general, but look here, it says love your enemies and do good to them. Lend to them without expecting to be repaid. It's not talking about your enemies of Israel, because your enemy is your enemy in general, regardless of the nation, brotherhood, kinship. I don't care what it is. This is what the Bible says. This is what Jesus says. And I hold him in high regard over any man or woman. It also says here, Jesus' teachings about loving your enemies are in line with the Hebrew scriptures, also known as the Old Testament. Let's see what the Old Testament says about this, people. Proverbs 24:17. Do not rejoice when your enemy falls, and let not your heart be glad when he stumbles. Proverbs 16:7. When a man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. Do you think Nathaniel's enemies and the black Hebrew Israelites' enemies are at peace with them? Whether it's black, Arabian, Asian, white? Like I told y'all in other videos, people, I read the Pentateuch. I read Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and I read Deuteronomy. I read Joshua. Now I'm in the book of Judges. Point I'm getting with that is, people, is it is a beautiful thing when you read it for yourself, and also you have the physical book in your hand, not just a phone or iPad and everything of that sort. Because now you can make writings and little footnotes and markings within the Bible. You see, I don't know what point Nathaniel was trying to make, because there are verses out there like this, and everyone must ask themselves, why aren't they reading these verses? Like Leviticus 19:33-34. When the stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not do him wrong. Let me read that again. When a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not do him wrong. You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. They don't read verses like this, though. Deuteronomy 10:18-19. He loves the foreigners who live with our people and gives them food and clothes. Show love for those foreigners, because you were once foreigners in Egypt. Straight from the Bible, Zechariah 7:9. Do not oppress widows, orphans, foreigners who live among you, or anyone else in need. That's plain as day in Zechariah for you. Numbers 15:16. I am the Lord, and I consider all the people the same, whether they are Israelites or foreigners, living among you. Oh my goodness, let me read that again, because it probably went over a lot of people's head. It went over mine just a little, if I'm just being honest. Numbers 15:16. I am the Lord, and I consider all people the same. Whoa, all people the same. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. They overlook this verse a lot. All these verses, but especially this one right here. Now look here, it says this. I consider all people the same, whether they are Israelites or foreigners living among you. Don't get me wrong. Israel was God's chosen people, but they didn't live up to that standard that they were supposed to be upheld to. They did not meet expectation. They even killed the Messiah, and they killed his friends, his apostles, and his other people too as well. They hated Christians. Same way these people hate Christians, but I don't think they're the real Jews, though. I think they're imposters. And if they were, they're repeating the same mistakes that their ancestors and forefathers did, which was hate Christians. I can't see all of Isaiah 117, but you guys can read it for yourselves. Deuteronomy 27:19. Cursed is anyone who withholds justice from the foreigner, the fatherless, or the widow. That's the Bible for you, plain as day. Exodus 23:9. You shall not oppress a sojourner. You know the heart of a sojourner, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. Do you understand what that verse just really said? You should have sympathy and empathy for this person, because you was in their shoes at one point. So why don't you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called black Hebrew Israelites, act the same way that this verse is saying? Exodus 23:9. Because it clear as day says, you know the heart of a sojourner, because you were once sojourners as well. It's very sickening to see people talk about the Bible, but not talk about it to its full totality. Not saying that I'm perfect, because there's certain stuff that I'm still battling and I'm trying to overcome. But one thing I won't do is act like I'm preaching the whole Bible, yet I'm leaving out verses like this that are key to one's salvation, soul salvation, whether they go to heaven or whether they go to hell. Exodus 22:21. You shall not wrong a sojourner or oppress him, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. The same thing that was repeated in the last chapter is repeated in the next. Deuteronomy 10:19. Love the sojourner, therefore, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. Repeated in the next book. Leviticus 19:34. You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you. Treat them the same as your own people. You guys don't act like that at all. And you shall love him as yourself. So don't just treat him as your own blood, but treat him as how you would want to be treated. For you are strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. He ended it by saying,